Okay, so the Less Wrong posts. The first one is, why are individual IQ differences okay? And before anybody starts worrying about, how this is going to go into touchy territory that will brand us intellectual dark web, Eliezer does say a great deal has already been said about the Watson affair, and I suspect that in most respects I have little to contribute that has not been said before. And so he doesn't really touch on all that more, I don't know, controversial stuff. And I am very happy about that because I also have no interest in getting into any of that. But before we continue, any of you guys have comments on that?
It's funny that you're worried about intellectual dark web stuff. We can talk about whatever, but I hear it, like, it's just more like it's already hashed, boring material. But yeah. The Watson affair reminded me. So James Watson was one of the guys who worked with Francis Crick and discovered the double helix structure of DNA, right?
Yes.
Nobel Prize winner. And the affair was like him saying that he suspected there were IQ differences, or was he just like a flat out racist? I can't even remember.
I have no idea about what his opinions on race are, but he did say that he thinks I don't remember the exact quote, like, it's undeniable that there's differences between of average IQ between the various races, something along those lines.
He said, what looks to me in itself looks like, let me find it. It's because this is linked in the Less Wrong post. He said what looks to me like a self-evident truth. He told the Sunday Times of London in an interview that in his humble opinion, black people are less intelligent than white people.
Oh,
interestingly,
Jesus.
This is from what looks like a somewhat straightforward, or like a prestigious looking website, but it capitalizes white but not black.
That's, first of all, stupid and ridiculous, but also, oh my God, that statement sounds incredibly racist.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't even sound like he's talking about averages among populations. It just sounds like he's talking about individual people, right?
Well,
based on that wording.
Yeah, that wasn't a quote. That just said like, this is what he said. So it wasn't like quote unquote, but
I don't have the original quote here. Sorry, I don't have the original quote. I'm looking in the comments, and in the comments, somebody says that what he said is he's inherently gloomy about the prospect of Africa because all our social policies are based on the fact that their intelligence is the same as ours, whereas all the testing says not really. So it's not quite as pardon the pun, black and white. The commenter says technically he didn't even say that it was lower, but I think that's a pretty clear implication.
Yeah, he's gloomy for the prospects of Africa because their average IQ is higher.
Yeah, and they're implementing policies meant for us stupid whites.
Yeah, he's saying that the testing shows that the people of Africa, their intelligence is not the same as ours, which is not a good.
No, indeed. What was I going to say? Shoot, I thought I had something for this. You said pardon the pun. You never have to pardon puns on this show, sir.
Oh, you have to pardon every pun? Thank you very much.
Not while I'm here.
Stephen and me have a long history of disagreeing about how puns should be handled in the world.
If I ask for pardon, it's from Inyas, not from Stephen. How about
that? Excellent. Oh, man. I mean, I don't know. I hate to say that he's not wrong because, again, it sounds really racist, but like there could be many reasons that they test worse than white people and why those tests would matter for the implementation of policies.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I guess quick thing. Oh, I have a hard stop in 2 hours. So
okay.
That's just a heads up because I already told Inyash, but all right, jumping back into this. I guess I'm curious. Have either of you guys ever taken an IQ test?
I've taken an informal one administered by my high school sociology teacher. So nothing super formal. And then another one that I took, I believe, gosh, I don't remember where the second setting was. Again, it wasn't a formal one. They both gave the exact same number, which I found interesting. But
it could have been formal enough then.
Yeah, I don't know.
What about you, Velcro?
I took one, I think, when I was in elementary school or something, and I did not see the results.
Oh, so it's been a while. Yeah. The reason I ask is because, I mean, I've taken at least one, and I think that I'm hedging on how to put this without just completely shitting on the test entirely, but I'm not convinced it's testing for anything with any reliability. Like there's obviously a trend, right? Really smart people do well on this test, but I know people who are bad test takers who are really, really smart, just not like honed at taking time to tests. And I guess I'm not convinced that, if you were to get solid numbers that proved people over 6 feet tended to be 5 IQ points higher than average, or people with brown hair were 10 points lower than average, like that would be interesting, especially if it was, random things like that. But I never found the IQ test all that compelling of like testing anything super interesting. It tests if you're a good test taker, and it's the kind of thing where you can practice at it and get better.
Exactly.
And that strikes me as it raises my sus radar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can certainly get a few points better, but I don't know. So on the one hand, it's undeniable that smart people will do better in general, even if it's not like a hard one-to-one correlation. And also that in our Western societies, anyway, scoring higher on an IQ strongly correlates with a lot of life outcomes that are considered better. So it's testing for something. I'm not sure what exactly, but intelligence is somewhere in the mix. I consider it kind of like a fuzzy tool. It sort of like shows general implications. Like it would be less of a measuring tape that tells you exactly how many, inches down to the quarter inch tall you are, and more like, yeah, this guy is more or less taller than that type of tree, or this guy's more or less shorter than that type of bush, but without being super specific and with having lots of error.
Maybe it's like measure or weighing someone and say, well, generally speaking, people who weigh more are taller.
Yeah.
But that's about all you got.
And your weight changes from day to day depending on circumstances.
Yes. And if you're from a society where food is plentiful, you're going to weigh more, and vice versa.
Yeah. I only bring all this up because, and maybe I can dig in and there's some actual hard research on this, but I never found IQ, like, oh, look, IQ test shows this or that. I never found that all that interesting or compelling because I don't think that it's testing for anything all that exciting. But maybe I'm just, maybe that's been controlled for and I'm missing the mark. Maybe I've taken only crappy IQ tests.
I agree with you.
The one I did take said I was smart, so it must have been a bad test.
I do think that, like, if you could implement some sort of policy that would raise the average IQ of a population by 7-8 points, like, I don't know, removing lead from the air or something, that would have massive implications for a society, because that's a lot of IQ. And even, it's just sort of like a running average of kind of everybody, but it really adds up if you can get an entire population to be, just a notch smarter.
I guess in some ways...
Yeah, that's a...
Go ahead.
No, please. Sorry. We're doing this remotely, by the way, everybody. So if there's some talking over each other, that's why.
I kind of look
at latency.
Yep. Kind of like the SAT, in that if you could raise everyone's SAT scores by 20 points, you might make society better, but it might just be people who do better analogies. If that's still on the SATs, I don't even know.
Yeah. And SATs are often used as a proxy for IQ scores because apparently they both measure the same type of intellectual, muscle.
Yep. And I can easily imagine that if you gave SATs to people in Africa, they would not score as well as high school students in Europe.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to hobby horse against my feelings on IQ tests for a second. So now we can keep going with the podcast. Thanks for indulging me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no problem. So what were we? Okay. Eliezer's main point here is what he gets. I pulled this quote. Why is it that the rest of the world seems to think that individual genetic differences are okay, whereas racial genetic differences in intelligence are not? Am I the only one who's every bit as horrified by the proposition that there's any way whatsoever to be screwed before you even start, whether it's genes or lead-based paint or Down syndrome? He later says, if God has not given intelligence in equal measure to all his children, God stands convicted of a crime against humanity, period. And I think that's the main thrust of this essay, that people seem to say or feel anyway, that it's okay for some people to be really smart and others to be kind of dumb. That's just the way life is. Maybe it's not okay, but whatever. It's how life is and we have to accept it. But when someone says that populations might have different average IQs, they instinctively say, no, that is horrific. You can't even possibly say that. How dare you? But when someone says my brother is quite a bit dumber than I am because of this and this reasons, they're like, oh, well, yeah, that happens, as opposed to jumping on the person and being like, how could you possibly say that about, another person, especially your brother, that he's dumber than you? That's not okay. And, I kind of feel like in terms of what things we should be morally outraged about, I'm on Eliezer's side here. It's been a long journey in my life to come to this reckoning where life is just inherently unfair and we're fucked before we're born in some ways, and it really sucks. And I'm glad he's here to remind me every now and then that reality is not okay and it does suck, and we do have to kill God and fix things.
Yeah, I mean, IQ aside, the idea that people aren't born with differences that matter is nuts, right? Like, it sure would be nice, but there are congenital heritable illnesses, right? Mm-hmm. There's just a luck lottery that makes the world an entirely unfair place.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what else is in this post? Sorry.
He does say that it's obvious what different skin color makes politically. However, just because this attitude is common should not cause us to overlook its insanity. Some kind of different psychological processing is taking place around individually unfair intelligence distributions and group unfair intelligence distributions. A group injustice has no existence apart from injustice to individuals. It's individuals who have brains to experience suffering. So, yeah, more basically along the lines of it's not fair that individual people are fucked, and let's not forget that.
Right.
Yeah,
I saw that as it's terrible that individual people are treated unfairly, but that's true on so many axes. Why focus on race?
Yeah.
Well, and especially suggested IQ differences.
Yeah.
I like how you put it. God stands convicted of a crime against humanity.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I often feel this way about the sexes. Like, I was raised in the very 90s, like there's almost no difference between the sexes kind of thing, except for upper body strength. And like, as I've grown older and noticed more differences, I think it's really fucked up how evolution has bifurcated us like this, where the males are just like inherently stronger and more aggressive, and the women have to live with these monsters around them. And I'm not happy about it. And I think it really sucks. And that is one of the things that we should fix, because it's really not fair just to have half the population be underprivileged in physical strength like that, and the other half to have this aggressive tendencies that makes life terrible for people.
Well, fortunately, I
mean, that sounds almost as sweeping as saying that people from Africa are less intelligent than people not from Africa, but point taken.
I mean, in an average of the population's kind of way.
Yeah.
Not every individual person.
It's fortunate that we have not evolved, but culture and technology has evolved to the point where that physical strength is not as big a factor as it was hundreds or thousands of years ago.
Yeah, that's true. But there's still, I don't know.
It's still there.
My
still
partner.
Situations. Yeah.
Yeah. My partner Charlie now often has to carry some heavy things out to her car as part of her job, and whenever it's like here at home, I try to help her out, but I'm not always there, and it sucks, and I just feel like it's some bullshit, man.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, so life's unfair, and that sucks. What else we got?
Let's fix everything. The next post is motivated stopping and motivated continuation. Stephen, did you want to start with anything here?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is the tendency. This can be summed up in a sentence that I like, that Julia Galef uses a lot, especially in her book, The Scout Mindset. A motivated skeptic asks if the evidence compels them to accept a conclusion, and a motivated credulist asks if the evidence allows them to accept a conclusion. Mm-hmm. Like, if you want to believe something, you ask, can I believe this? And if you don't want to believe this, you ask, do I have to believe this?
Yes. And yeah, he says that this is analogous with a thing he calls motivated stopping and motivated continuation. The fact is that gathering evidence is a costly procedure. It takes time, it takes effort, and lots of times you have to make the decision, do I keep looking or do I stop here and make a decision? The example he gave is like when you're looking for a house, you do not have the time and ability to look at every house that's on the market and compare them all. After a while, you have to stop and be like, okay, of the last 4 houses we saw, what do we do? I guess car shopping is the same kind of way. There's a lot of things like that. Finding a mate is that way. You don't have time to date everybody in your city. And the question is whether or not to keep looking for evidence. And lots of times people have like sort of a hidden bias where if they don't want to accept their current conclusion, the way the evidence is pointing, they're like, okay, I'm going to keep looking because maybe they'll find something that allows them to change their mind. Whereas if you are at a conclusion that you like, maybe you haven't done enough looking, but you want this conclusion to be true. So you're like, okay, I'm going to stop here. It's not worth continuing to look for evidence. And he calls that motivated stopping and motivated continuation, where you're kind of skewing the things in your favor by deciding when to stop looking.
I like that. And I also, oh wait, this actually ties into the next post, so I'll hold off.
Go ahead, Velcro.
Yeah. I just thought this was interesting because this is one of those things that when you read it, when I read it, I say, oh yeah, of course that happens. That's obvious. But by reading it in this format, it makes me try and realize when I'm actually doing it myself. So that's kind of what I like about the sequences. It might be something I thought of before, but not as something that I do. So
yeah. Yep. And he does give the warning that motivated continuation can try to disguise itself as virtuous rationality, because who can argue against gathering more evidence? Which, it's a good point. More evidence is always good. At least I thought. But I guess there's a point where it's silly.
You have to, be careful with higher practice in the art, right?
Yeah. All right, and that brings us to a case study of motivated continuation. This actually came after the post Torture or Dust Specks, which we did not cover here because about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we did an entire episode about that one post, since it has been controversial, to say the least. But basically, the question was a utilitarian calculation. If a infinite number of people were to get a dust speck into their eye, which caused them a momentarily amount of pain, would that be better or worse than one person being tortured for 50 years? Because the 50 years of torture cannot in total add up to how much pain is experienced by basically an infinite number of people getting that dust speck in their eye. And this post was a follow-up to that one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess jumping into it then, he kind of jumps in just railing on bioethics, which maybe I've just been steeped in this too long, but I haven't heard a good thing about bioethicists in a long time. But I think it is the, I don't want to say stated conclusion, but the consensus among the community that bioethics is just an annoying field that slows down important stuff. And the example he gives is like, okay, well, if you're a bioethicist talking about stem cell research, you might stand up there and give a talk and then gravely declare that more debate is urgently needed with participation from all stakeholders, because that's nice and non-committal. Whereas if you say we need stem cell science, medicine, then you're pissing off every religious fundamentalist out there. And if you say, oh no, we can't work on stem cells because that's wrong, then you piss off everybody who stem cells would actually help, which is a lot of people. So you instead make the nice, safe call to more debate, which who can argue with that, right?
Yeah.
I guess this is the part that I was thinking of from the last one, which was, I just liked how you phrased this, the bit about Darwinism versus creationism. I haven't heard Darwinism is a term I haven't heard since the days of the New Atheism. But he says, consider the issue soberly and decide that you need more evidence. You want archaeologists to dig up another billion fossils before you come to a conclusion. That way you neither say something sacrilegious nor relinquish your self-image as a rationalist. Keep on doing this with all issues that look like they might be trending towards an uncomfortable direction, and you can maintain a whole religion in your mind.
Yeah. I'm not sure if this is the first time I heard the phrase, but he says that real life is often confusing and we have to choose anyway, because refusing to choose is also a choice.
Yep.
He quotes someone who said refusing to choose is like refusing to allow time to pass, because you're doing nothing, and that has consequences too.
Mm-hmm. I know I'm an engineer, and in engineering sometimes you have analysis paralysis, which is just keep trying to get better numbers to make 100% sure that you're doing the right thing, and you're never going to get to 100%.
Yeah. And in the meantime, the status quo prevails, basically.
Yep.
I like the phrase. I've always liked the phrase analysis paralysis. I have a coworker who struggles with that a lot, and it seems like it drives him nuts too. But not even just work stuff. But I mean, and this isn't exaggerating, he spent like a month trying to find the right coffee table, 6 months looking for the right glasses. And I get glasses at least are a solid investment because they're kind of like part of your face, but you can always get 2 pairs if you really can't pick between 2. And also, like, what is he doing in the meantime? I didn't even know he needed glasses.
He was walking around with no vision correction?
Well, he was. I don't know if he wore contacts or what, but at the very least, he was walking around his apartment, working from home, but maybe he didn't desperately need them or anything. But it's that sort of thing. Yeah, you by him not deciding which pair of glasses to get, he was making a choice to go around without glasses, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is just it's easy to just like pick easy examples to pick on like whatever evolution or coffee tables, but it can be this isn't just something that happens to people who are bad at thinking about stuff, right? It's hard to make a decision sometimes, especially on things that matter. And if making one decision like commits you and is costly, like buying a house is a good example, right?
Yeah.
Like it's really easy to sit there and hedge on it for months and months or years and years. Like I hedged for a long time. Should I get Bitcoin? Then it blew up to like double what it is now. And then it went back down again. So, and I never got any. So, well, I did a few years ago and lost money, but that was a whole thing. But, it's like and by not acting, I missed out on possibly gaining some money, right?
And I think there's like a million rom-coms that are on the subject of, I can't choose between these two people, and let's just not make any decision for the entirety of the movie. And then at the end of the movie, we still don't realize that polyamory exists because whatever. Yeah. He ends the post with saying that ducking uncomfortable choices is a dangerous habit of mind. His advice is pick one of the uncomfortable answers as the best of an unsatisfactory lot. If there's missing information, fill in the blanks with plausible assumptions or probability distributions. Whatever it takes to overcome the basic flinch away from discomfort. Until you pick one interim best guess, the discomfort will consume your attention, distracting you from the search, tempt you to confuse the issue whenever your analysis seems to trend in a particular direction. Refusing to choose is often the worst choice you can make. And I like that idea of, actually having to sit down, pick which one you think is the most probable, make the best guesses you can to fill in the difference, and, always be ready to change your mind again if it turns out that some more evidence comes in and it looks like you were wrong in the initial estimation you made.
Yeah, and sometimes when I'm making a hard decision or talking to someone making a hard decision, if it's that hard to decide, probably both of your choices are good. And
yes,
that takes a little of the stress away. And then you can kind of...
I think I first heard that... Oh, sorry, you were saying this latency is really a bummer.
Yeah, I think I'll just keep talking for a second when I hear someone pop up. Maybe that's the way to work it. Well, now I forgot what I was going to say. So maybe we ought to...
Oh, crap. I'm sorry. I was going to just... I was going to follow up with what you said that, yes, I think I first heard that at Robin Henson's blog, Overcoming Bias, where he pointed out that if you are really, really hemming and hawing and sweating over a decision that much, it's probably because the differences are really small and it doesn't really matter one way or the other which one you choose, because even if you choose wrong, it's only going to be wrong by a little bit. So just fucking make a choice.
Yeah, and if you just say they're both equal, then you can allow the intangibles that you might feel guilty about making the full decision on, blue or green, and you can't decide, well, I like blue better, but that's a stupid way to make the decision. Once you say, well, no, they're both good decisions, then you can let those things carry it over the finish line for you. And make
hell yeah. And you'll be happier in the end.
Yep.
All right. Do we have anything more on these before we move on?
Not really.
No.
I think this is the fastest we've ever gotten through a LessWrong post section.
What can I say? I think part of it is that we're trying to get to the main topic. It's rare that we're working like with an actual time pressure. So did you read the last line of this? Because it was nice that until you pick one interim best guess, the discomfort will consume your attention, distract you from the search, tempt you to confuse the issue whenever your analysis seems to trend in a particular direction. Refusing to choose is often one of the worst choices you can make.
Yes.
And I like that. Again, it's a point that Harry made in Methods of Rationality, but not picking or not deciding is also a choice, and it can very often screw you over. So, yeah.
All right. Well, our posts for next time are going to be fake justification and an alien god. And an alien god is one of my favorites. I love it. I did it in audio format, so people will be able to listen to that one directly, and I'll post a link. And I'm looking forward to this.
Fun on the bun.
And this alien god is one of the gods that we must kill. So Just as a spoiler.